early morning before. Oh my God, Jonathan, it must be
Yeah,
like 6 a.m. for him.
I know. We got some. We got some West Coast here, and it's like Sunday morning. Well, Jonathan's probably up on his way to church, don't you think? I'm
Mm.
just kidding. I don't think
Or
that you
he's
go to
just
church.
awake because he just loves us so much. So he's gonna be like, I'm gonna make sure I'm there for Jilly
I
being
mean,
the
yeah,
show.
maybe so. Maybe, but I mean, like maybe there's a wrestling church near him. And what if
There could be.
John and Renee went to wrestling church every Sunday morning?
That would be friggin' hilarious. But they would actually go to Viking church first,
Oh, okay.
I think, and because John would have to have his hair, perfect. He has the best hair on YouTube.
Well, good
Just
morning,
saying.
John. Renee, if you're there.
Boy, John. Hope you both are feeling better. Talk about like, when you're in a relationship, you do everything together. They both got sick after they went to a concert and ended up both getting that horrible thing at the same time after on their anniversary.
Oh, that's too
Mm.
bad. I guess I didn't realize that. I have been out of the loop. We were just kind of talking about that for a minute. I've been
Well, he
keeping
had
to
texted.
myself, apparently.
Well, he texted me. That's how I knew.
Oh, that's how you knew. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good morning for anybody who's here. It's nice to see you. Sunday morning. It's the holy day.
Our unholy.
Or unholy, however you take that. I mean, I got, and that really depends, right? I mean, if you're Jewish, you celebrate on Fridays, right?
Yeah, that's
Or on
Shabbos, right? That's
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, when I was younger, because I grew up Catholic, I used to have to go to church on Saturdays with my grandmother. And I used to have to go to 4 o'clock mass. I'll never forget it because I'd be so mad. I'd have to come in from outside playing, get cleaned up, and then we'd have to pick up my great grandmother when she was alive and her other elderly friend. So I got to walk into church with. It was awesome. I'm not traumatized by it whatsoever.
Not one bit. Yeah, that's
Nope, don't hold
evil.
any
Or
resentments.
what's that?
I don't hold any resentments or anything.
Well, it's too. It's like that 4 p.m. on a Saturday. It's just cruel because at least like if it's in the morning, it's like okay, I got the rest of the day, and if it's in the evening, you like I already had the day. But 4 o'clock, that's like peak kid time.
It is because especially like in the summer or the winter with daylight savings, you only had so many hours of sunlight before you're gonna have to go in, right? So go
Right.
home.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, Jonathan, we love you. So
Yeah. You
feeling
are
better,
awesome.
Renee's. But I got up for both of you at 7 on my day off
That is the sweetest.
because unfortunately, Keats and then we're up late because I saw they're on the West Coast too. I saw the messages. I'm like, yeah, they will not be awake when we're live.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's early. We just knew we wanted to like hang out and talk about some tarot cards, right?
Absolutely, because for I thought I was going to go to a football game, which I'm not going to, but I'm an early person. It's just the difference between us and some of the other. We're older, so
Mhm,
we're up
mhm.
earlier,
I
and
know. When I was in New Orleans, I didn't. It wound up being indoors, so I didn't go. But there was Callie was like, "Come to this rave," and Callie's younger than me, or whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna try. Like I trained for it, Jill. I like was staying up. I'd be like, okay, 2 a.m. All right, okay, now you can go to
yep.
bed, right? I trained, right, and it wound up getting canceled. But I'm the whole like I trained for 2 weeks so I could try to go to a rave. Like I was in training, like people train for a marathon.
That
And
is
then
hilarious, but that is something I could totally
I
see.
feel
I could totally see you having to do that because I would have
I,
to do the same thing. Like I went to my
mhm,
class reunion. I think I got home at like 2:30 in the morning, and I didn't drink at all. But I swear it took me 3 days, and I might as well have been hungover. I had no voice. I
uh-huh.
was so tired. I was like, and headachy, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, I didn't even drink a drop of alcohol, but I am hung to the boards.
Isn't that crazy? I know. The whole time I'm like, I'm gonna start doing raves for old people, and I'm gonna start them at 11 a.m.
You gonna start them at 10 o'clock?
Way
Like
front.
no kidding, right? Like I
mean, you can
was
sleep your MDMA off by 6 p.m.
seriously.
You know what I'm saying? Go to dinner at your mom's house, get up for work the next day.
Yeah, like we have to start early. We can, we got to start the trip, so much earlier than those youngins. Are we gonna make it like
10:20 a.m.?
Should we make it like an age thing, 45 plus, 45 plus to get in?
45 and up, okay? Totally. There's coconut water and ibuprofen on the buffet. We're gonna get down.
That's gonna be like your exit gift. Like you're gonna get ibuprofen, you're gonna get fluids.
Yeah. I mean, I might do it, because I can still get out there and dance. I just can't do it at 2 a.m.
And so like my reunion ended at like 11:30 or something, but we ended up going to one bar and we looked around. We're like, we are so too old to be here. Then we kind of got scattered. So we ended up at like, he's our class president. We ended up at his house, but I was a sober driver and I had to then start bringing some people home for different reasons. And I'm like, it's 2:30. Am I going to drive back to my friend's house at this point? No, even though I guess I did miss some fun, interesting things based on what I saw in the comments. But I was like, nah, just call it. It's like you did 2:30. You did good.
That is really good. You're like, I had all the fun I need. I mean, that's the thing. You're like, I had 10 minutes of fun. It was great. I just want to go home. This is John.
Seriously, right?
Right? You're like, I didn't say I didn't have fun. 15 minutes is all I wanted to do. See, I was up since midnight, which is late for me, but I watched This Is the End. I love watching the celebrities die. Good times, good times. Who dies in This Is the End? Oh, hey, Keith.
I know, Keith. We didn't think we'd see you.
Who dies in the This Is the End?
Don't give spoilers.
Yeah, you said you're airborne and I swear by airborne. So does my mom. My mom is like airborne will cure anything. She swears that's why neither one of us have had COVID yet. I don't think that's true. But
hey, it gives you peace of mind. Who gives a shit, right?
As long as you're like, I just need my little beliefs right now.
Seriously, if it keeps, if it makes it so you feel better about going out in the world.
Yep.
Who cares?
Off to my teaching apprenticeship. Yay! Thank you, Keats. Have a great day. I'm super stoked for you out there. I know he's always doing so much stuff, but this is
he's great. Always doing such cool things.
Good
luck, Keats.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, Sarah bits are great. I'm so I don't know who Michael Sarah is.
He was part of like the original like Seth Rogen and all those guys. He was on Arrested. I thought he was on Arrested Development.
Okay, wait. Which one was he?
The geeky kid, I thought.
Paul Rudd. Huh. Oh, okay. Paul Rudd, I know. Ooh, who died? There was a celebrity death. I don't know.
Oh, so I am this. Yeah, Superbad. It's like that. They did Superbad. They did and Michael Cera was in that movie with Ellen Page. My brain is still fuzzy, where she gets pregnant, but she doesn't. Jason Bateman's in it. They're not going to keep it. Something like that. Yes, Juno. Yeah. Yeah, he was in that. Actually, everyone's spoilers.
Right. Yeah, Superbad was so great. I actually was thinking about Superbad the other night because it was like I just had the most fun. This was years ago, and it was a friend of mine, and we went out to Clearview Mall, which is in a suburb outside of New Orleans, and we drank mall Mai Tais at the Mexican restaurant. Then we went and played blacklight mini golf, and then we went and saw Superbad. And honestly, I was thinking about it last week. I was like, that's literally one of the funnest times I've ever had. Like, I had so much fun. I laughed so hard at Superbad, and just I don't know, drinking mall cocktails used to be something that I'd be like, oh, this is weird, because I was just such a like city girl, I was just such a city like punk, and to be like, we're at the Mexican restaurant at the mall drinking Mai Tais, I love that shit.
Well, I always had the most fun. I used to always say it. I used to have the most fun if it was the divier, creepier bar we used to have the most fun at. Like, we used to, when I was younger, like last call would happen, but we knew if we ran across up this little, like the streets were parallel, if we ran up this little driveway across the street, we could get to this place called the Rigger that closed down. And we could get, you know, one more drink and like 4 more songs and have the dance floor to ourselves. So,
oh, yeah,
yes.
cool.
And we would look like the most beautiful girls in the world compared to what, no offense, what usually was there. And they'd be, you know, we were like the cream of the crop. It was fantastic. You know.
Fun times. Do you think, okay, so if I do this adult rave, do you think I could be DJ McLovin?
If you do the adult rave, like, I'm just gonna say we're gonna put a ban on whistles because that will drive me batshit crazy.
Well, just
no
the
whistles
in that crowd.
Oh, I remember being in Canada and at this club, and the whistles, I'm like, I am going to shove these whistles down these fucking kids' throats in like 3.2 seconds. If another one gets blown in my ear, like. Even when I was young.
Oh, how have you been? You've been reading tarot on Facebook lately, huh?
Well, so I'm trying to get myself engrossed back into traditional tarot because that's like where I started. And I actually, just for the hell of it, like as I was getting ready, I pulled out the first deck I ever got was for free, just with this little thing I was doing, a mini pocket-sized little tarot thing. Isn't it so cute? And I actually found pictures of like my first card spreads I tried and stuff. But when I decided I wanted to like dive back into learning traditional tarot by your book, I bought myself a new deck so that it was like regular size because, yes, best book.
Ah, that looks so cute, side by side.
I know someone screenshot it.
Yeah.
I love and I also pulled out, like, I have a whole bunch of tarot books, like like, you know, I got this one I have to say, it's what the fuck is tarot and what do I do with it, like, it's cool,
Yeah,
but I find that yours though gave the best description of the card for one thing and a meditation to go along with it, so it really gave you the tools to, like, if you wanted to learn tarot, it wasn't just reading about the meaning. It gave you something to reflect on, which is why I love it. So
cool.
my McRib.
Isn't that funny? That's what DJ McRib, because he only DJs a couple times a year. Like, that's brilliant. Like,
yeah, because you only
release McRib at Christmas.
Yeah, because McRibs are like they don't have them all the time, even though I couldn't even imagine. I don't like McDonald's. Sorry.
Oh, I love McDonald's.
Well, I love their.
Aww.
Oh, awesome.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, because I mean, like, teaching tarot, which I've been doing for about 5 years now, and it's just like everybody really comes to it the same way I came to it. I remember when I first had the cards in my hand and just being like, how do you remember all of this? Like, I'll never be able to remember all this stuff, right? And the answer to that is you don't. You learn, you don't memorize. You learn about these 78 people, essentially, who live in this little world that we call tarot, and you meet them and you learn about them over time. And it literally takes you as long as it would take you to get to have some kind of knowledge about 78 people. Like, if you went to a new job and there were 78 people there, how long would it really take you to know something about them? You're not going to know them well, but something about them, right? A couple of years, right? That's about what it's going to take you with tarot. And I think imagining it like that, like, I'm meeting all these people in the new town that I just moved to, and it's going to be a while before I have relationships with them that I understand.
And that's the perfect way to describe it, because there's certain tarot cards that like still today when I see them, they speak instantly to me. And there's other ones, I look at them and I'm like, I got nothing. So that's why I love this book. So what I've been doing, and I'm only on, so of course I did pull a card before we started today. So I'm on, so what I've been doing in your book, because I wanted to just, as I work through it, you know, this is the 17th card that I've pulled. So I still got a few more. I got a ways to go. But today I pulled the Ace of Pentacles.
Ooh.
And as soon as I saw this, I went, oh my God, this is such the perfect card for the stream. Because like when I first see this, like Pentacles, I think money. Ace is always one, new beginnings. And it's like the begin to when I first look at it, I see the beginning of new ideas, adventures, businesses, you know, partnerships and all that stuff. And I'm like, this is so perfect for today. And in your book, you wrote your plan is solid and support will come your way through the adage remains true. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, a good omen for finding landing on a new place to live, a better job, or a raise.
Ooh.
And I've been trying to do more of this sort of stuff. Like I started doing so once a month, this is not it's not a tarot deck, it is a oracle, but I have this deck. It's called Moonology. So I started doing readings for people. Oh my God, I did one for you for the full moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was the third month I did it for a group. The feedback's been good. So I think I'm going to actually make it, I'm going to advertise it or put it on my page and try to see if I get some bites. And it's like, this card represents like that sort of venture. Like it is the right thing to do to pursue. Like I'm not trying to like make millions, but it's like, it's a service that people seem to like so far. So
yeah, cool. That's great. I love it. I love that that's the card you got today. The Ace of
it was
Pentacles
so
is just,
perfect.
yeah, it's so strong. It's such a just a strong foundational card. Always like a super good omen. The aces are great too because like it's just the aces are like handing you tools. So it's like here, you want like especially like the ace of discs, you know, it's like here's these tools I have for you. Like you have a solid foundation, you have the financial resources, you have the emotional resources. These are all tools that you can use to meet your goal. So like aces are great because it's really just like somebody just imagine like I don't know if my aunt's neighborhood when I was a kid there used to be a guy who rode a snow cone bike around. I loved it. I think of it
Oh my
every single
God.
guy because he'd be like the snow cone guy, you know. Anyway, that's kind of how I see the aces a little bit. It's like the snow cone guy is sort of like, hey, you need anything in there? I got you, right? Whereas some tarot cards are like it's this type of person, it's this type of situation, but the aces are like literally just bags of tools. So I love how they're so positive in that way, and then also you're just like, yay, I have all this stuff to work with.
And it's always exciting to start a new adventure. Like
Yeah.
I recently so the person that I have a medium that I've been seeing since like 2013, I think. She is like the center of like she's the start of my journey into all of this. She's how I found my mentor. Like she like there's so much with her, with history with her. And every once in a while I get a nudge that says you need to book an appointment with Donna. And
Oh,
I'll
cool.
hear it and I'll hear it. So I did actually recently do a reading with her and I got the Ace of Wands. And she said, this is the hand of God coming down, telling you. So I always love when I see an ace. An ace is always like a good sign, regardless of if it's a sword, a wand, whatever. It's always a positive card. So because remember that day when I pulled all those swords, I'm like, Michelle, look what I just got. It was like the 9 of swords. So I'm like, oh
I was
shit.
like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Seriously, but this is part of the reason why I signed up for your class because I know
Yeah.
there is so much more. Because like when they talk about like how zodiac signs are part of the cards, like I have not ever gotten that in deep with tarot to really explore the actual archetypes and all that. That's part of the reason why I signed up for your class because for one thing, I do better in a class setting.
Mm-hmm.
If I've paid for something, I'm gonna do the work. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
left to my own devices, the work goes to the side.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm excited to do your class to really dive into and learning more about the people, right? To learn more about all these friends that have decided to come into my life.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad you're taking the class. So for anybody out there, I'm teaching a class in New Orleans starting in October 13th, but we're also on Zoom. So you
Mm-hmm.
can I'll be in person in New Orleans and then be on Zoom too. So y'all can sign up. It's a 6-week class. It's kind of an intermediary class, so like it's good if you have some knowledge, But if you really are just like also just a straight up beginner, I did have straight up beginners in the last time I did this class, and it works fine. It's just you're diving in at a different point and you just have to let go in a different way,
Yeah.
if you're starting out. But I can still walk beginners through. It doesn't matter where you start in tarot. The only thing is in our brains is we're like, we went to school all our lives and we're like, well, I have to understand step A, step B, and it's like, actually tarot doesn't work like that because it's a town. So you just like, what entrance did you come into the town? So, okay, well, that's over there. It's not coming in from the east side. It's not the same as the west side, but it's the same town. And you're not going to like not understand the town because you came off a different exit. Okay. What's the difference, if any, between tarot and prophecy cards? You use oracle cards, right, Jill?
Yeah, I use oracle. Like that's so oracle is like, so the way I'm a certified oracle card reader. So tarot is straightforward. Almost every tarot deck is going to be 78 cards, major and minor. So an oracle deck, though, is, for one thing, whoever created the oracle deck, it's their perspective. Like when they designed the cards, it's whatever they felt like this card's meaning should be. That's why, like, I don't always go when I pull oracles, I don't always go to the book. I use my own, but sometimes I'll look to see what the author was trying to convey with that. Oracle cards too, like they are can be specific. Like my moon deck is all moon phases and stuff. I have a romance deck. I got a life purpose deck. So they can have like a specific modality. Where tarot is tarot, right? It's
right.
There's no like life purpose tarot deck. Like there's many different versions. Like I actually pulled out a bunch of my old, like I got the Hermetic Tarot. I also got the Sex Magic Tarot after they had that person.
Does it have
jump in? Oh my God, Michelle, send me pictures of the cards. It is hilarious. But
you're like,
oracles,
that's how you do that.
Oh my God. I won't say who it was, but there was something we had talked about. They were unsure of what that position looked like. So I sent them a picture of the card. I'm like, this is what it would look like.
You're like, this is what she wants, baby.
Yeah, this is what this is how you're going to try. And I said, exactly. And that's the difference with oracles. Like there are oracle tarot decks. And what they do is they'll take like the major arcanas and assign them to something else, or they'll say in their guidebook, like when you see 9 of airs, this would represent wands in traditional tarot. So there are oracle decks that call themselves like a tarot, but they're their own spin on it. Where traditional tarot is just tarot. Like my God, I got so many decks. It's ridiculous, Michelle.
That's funny. I'm for as much as I read tarot, I'm not a deck collector. So I'm kind of and I still have a lot of decks and I'm not a collector, and so like right now I need new decks because my decks are like, they're dirty because I use the same cards so much.
No, you just need to cleanse them. Like I got one time.
No, I mean they're actually like physically dirty. So
no, I know what you mean, but that's because you've got to still use them because they're the ones you have the closest relationship with. Like my first oracle deck that I learned on, like, I mean, the box is breaking, but I refuse to. I know some people keep them in pouches and velvet pouches, but I like my boxes, like the box is falling. I'm going to end up taping it. I got a tarot deck one time, and sometimes I get stuff just because they look cool. And I tried to work with this deck. I just couldn't get anything from it. Like, the pictures in it there wasn't a lot of symbolisms and colors. I'm like, I tried for 4 weeks and I'm like, this deck is not working for me. Yeah. And I also, there are more novelties. I have, the villain deck from Disney. I got the Nightmare Before Christmas one, and I just found the Hocus Pocus one, but they're not good to work with for readings.
Right. I mean, that's that's true with a lot of those decks that are based on like things you like, but then a lot of times the people putting, like, I think is it maybe the Salvador Dali deck is pretty good. It's just kind of, I mean, like a lot of times the people who are putting those decks together, they don't know tarot well, you know, so they
Mhm.
might kind of like, they might just be somebody who's really constructing a deck for sale, and all they really do is like Google certain things. You know what I'm saying? And so like,
It's
but
just
they're
for
not.
it's commercial.
Yeah, and so you might get somebody who's like a really good artist, like they did one like Leo. There's a Leonardo da Vinci like tarot deck, but the thing is that like Leonardo da Vinci didn't make a tarot deck, so like
Oh.
it's his art on a tarot deck, and so like it's fun to look at, but it's not like you're getting something. It's not like you're getting Da Vinci's like point of view on tarot. And so a
Mhm.
lot of times those novelty decks are not very good to read with because it's really just more about having these collector cards and that type of thing, which I appreciate and people like that. But for anybody out there, you're like, oh, maybe I'll like this because I like David Bowie. It's a cool deck, but it's not good to read with. You won't
No.
you'll give up with those decks because they'll frustrate you and you won't know why.
They don't make any, like, for instance, just for like an easy one, like in the Nightmare Before Christmas, like it's Jack and oh my god, I'm blanking on this is where my fuzzy brain, like they're the lovers card, like that makes sense. But when you got into other ones, like the devil is the bad guy, but past that there's nothing. I
Yeah.
do have the Shadowscape Tarot, which the
Oh, that's a
illustrations
good one.
on this is beautiful. I will say this deck is a really cool one, but because I'm just trying to get back to basics, I like the Weight Rider. It's kind of like the OG,
It's a
you
really
know.
good one to learn on. And I
Hmm.
just real quick, the novelty decks, what they're really good for is professionals who read in person, because
Yeah,
that's what they're really good for. And so because then you can be like, oh my god, you can read from my David Bowie deck, but the pro's gonna like picture other cards in their mind. They're just, right? This is just for your pleasure that you're getting
hmm,
whatever, Da Vinci or whatever, Lisa Frank, whatever you like, that's for your pleasure. But then the reader who really knows their stuff isn't actually reading from those cards. They're remembering what they know about tarot, right?
exactly. That's
All
why
right. Oh, and
they were,
I wanted to jump in with this too, just real quick about oracle cards. Um,
yeah.
I got this deck of oracle cards like years ago, and
Hmm.
I was kind of surprised I bought them because it's not really like my aesthetic. It's this Oracle by Colette Reed Brown. You probably know
Oh,
her.
I do. I
It
know her, and I
right,
have that deck.
and like this is one of the cards from it. I just pulled it. So hard
Hmm.
to see in my ring light. Well, here, let me see if I can get a different colored one. There's one. Oh, they're hard to see with my ring light on today. Um, but anyway, the artwork on it is not my style. But
Yeah,
and so I got home with it and I was like, ooh, I kind of don't like these cards that much. I mean, they're pretty, they're gold edged too. But once
yeah.
I started using them, I was like, oh, deck is really good. She's really good. And so this
She's
Oracle deck,
awesome. I got a
yeah.
couple of hers. She is really, really good. She's one of the people that I always recommend. So this was my original. So this is the deck I learned on. It was my Energy Oracle deck from Sandra Ann Taylor, and I actually like her decks a lot. I every time she releases a new one, I buy it because I found, so as a beginner, the card. So this is so funny. This is the card that's on the front of the deck, and it represents like the psychic, and I don't like to say psychics, but this is like the psychic ability card.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I swear to god, when I was shopping trying to get an oracle deck, 'cause I didn't own any, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I had two in my hand, it kept calling me back. And sure enough, it's my go-to. It's the one I learned on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like, when you look at this card, like Broken Heart, if you're a
Uh-huh.
beginner, you can really learn. I think it's a good, if you're a beginner, the way the cards are structured, it's a great way to learn how to create a relationship and pull from the colors, the symbolisms, and start to create the language so that when you go to more complicated decks, you kind of got, let's just say, like the basics. And even and it translates to tarot as well, because if you look at the Weight Rider, like the numbers will jump out at me, the symbols more in like the minor arcana cards will I can pull from that. So it's like a good, you know, if people like, some people will do Oracle before Tarot because Tarot's a little bit more, can be a little bit more in depth, because that's the thing. Oracle's kind of surface based. If you've ever had a reading from me, though, I pull from my intuition as well. The cards just kind of guide me for the message in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind of how I use them. And
Gotcha.
of course, my Call It Baron read decks are not right next to me; they're behind me.
Oh, there's let's see. Back in Genocide says in high school back last century. Yeah, I heard the Zoomers are calling like the 90s the end of the end of the 19th century or something like that.
Oh my god.
Like they're like really, you know, they're like, ooh, we got y'all on this one, and they're right, they do. And
Well,
back or something like last century, the last I don't know, whatever. Yeah, but a girl did tarot with regular cards. And I
yes, you can use plain decks.
Yeah,
I've seen people do that.
Yeah, I can read playing cards too, like, which is fun sometimes too. Like when you know, I'm at somebody's house and it looks like I'm just like playing with their cards, and I'm like reading. I'm like, who's that over there in the corner? You know, whatever.
I don't.
Like
you should show me. I would love.
Yeah, actually, you have 52 cards in a regular deck of cards, and so what they're missing, what the regular deck is missing, is the major arcana. You don't have those 22 cards, and then I think it's the pages. You don't have the pages in it, because you only have the three. You got King, Queen, and Knight, I think, are what's in the right. So you don't have the pages, but you have everything else. And I mean, technically, the Joker card, if you put the Joker card in there, you have a Fool card. You have one.
I was just gonna say that'd be the Fool, yeah.
Yeah, you have one major arcana in the deck if you want to. So yeah, no, reading playing cards is very cool, and you can read them like tarot, but they also have their own divinatory like history and practice. Like they don't have to be like, you can read them like tarot, but that's not the only way to read cards. So that goes back deep in like root work, like magic in the United States and probably other countries as well. But that divination with, you know, and so they do have their own, because you can do all kinds of things with like time. You can add like time frames and seasons, and the playing cards like that have these very specific like designations. I mean, I think you can really use like a deck of playing cards to communicate a lot of things to people.
You should do a class. That sounds fascinating.
Oh, you know, I don't know it off the back of my but I could learn it and do it. Yeah, maybe so. Because it is really cool. And like, too, it's something like that's a tool that's around you all the time. You have playing cards around you, sitting on people's coffee tables. It's honestly something you can do right out in front of people, and nobody knows you're doing divination, but you are. You know? And then it has that history to it that I think is like, you know, I know a woman who's somebody in her family, like years like 2 generations back, she read playing cards, and people used to line up, you know, like on Saturdays, and because she'd read cards at her kitchen table, and you know, the whole town would, or whatever, the whole family, she spent all of her whatever, and they'd line up at her house and get card readings from her.
Well, I was gonna say playing cards are more the old school, when you say playing cards, I think of New Orleans. Like that is kind of where everything is done there. I can see where, like, coming from those places, you would think in Mass we would have a lot of that with all the, you know, the lore around the Salem witch trials and stuff. But you don't, when you go, because funny enough, like October's around the corner, right? And they do huge psychic fairs, but you don't see anyone pulling out playing cards. Because I went, this was years ago, and I remember, like, you know, the psychic fair is huge. And I went into like this one big room where they had readers that had different, you know, everyone has their own way of doing stuff. Like so this girl read crystals. I had never had my crystals read at that time. It was very interesting what she told me, but I never saw anyone pulling out just regular old playing decks.
That's interesting. You know, somebody did a crystal reading for me too, and I was like, oh, that was really good.
Well, it was the first time I ever learned about like how earth sign, like the signs like earth, fire, air, water plays into your chart. Because she's like, oh, you're a fire sign. She's like, that's why she's like, you're attracted to, I'm like, But it's funny because as a fire sign, like everyone knows I love smoking, right? That's been well established. But I was also afraid of matches and fire as a kid. But it's like I had
Oh,
never like heard that in those contexts when she was like, "Oh, you're a fire sign. You're probably attracted to this, that." I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." Like, because I've always had an interest in all this. I remember it's so funny. One of my friends who just recently who currently got in this too. We've been friends for 30 years, and I swear we do everything together. When my mother died, her father died a week later. I'm like, seriously, do we got to do everything together? But I remember her because her mom was gifted. Her mom was a witch. We knew that just by being around her. And I remember my friend getting this deck and trying to go through it. And both of us being like, yeah, there's no way we could ever learn this. We're like teenagers, right? Because that's what I really thought when I was younger. I thought this was something that you was like, you had to be a person that this was like handed to. Like, it wasn't, I never knew it was something anyone could learn. I thought it was something like it was given to you. Like it was,
I
you had
got
to
you.
have a special power. But
Right.
really, anyone can. I didn't know that as a teenager and in my 20s.
Well, and you don't have to like necessarily, I mean, sitting down with cards in a book every, like whatever, like every, week Saturday morning, that's your little ritual to get up and write in your journal and your cards and have your coffee or whatever. You don't have to become like, there's no pressure to become like a reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can have your cards and your books as a way to bring like relaxation, joy, ways to, ideas for writing or crafting, or just to bring this comfort and of self-knowledge to yourself. Like you don't have to ever remember anything to enjoy a deck of tarot cards.
And that's what I think people have that misconception that
Yeah.
if you like it is one way, like it is someone either trying to swindle you or
Yeah.
predict the future, but they don't when I first learned how to do cards, I never had any intention to read for anybody. I was doing it to work through grief and
Yeah.
work through forgiveness. So my first year was focusing on myself. Like within class, we had to like there was four of us, and it always worked out well when the classes were small. So part of our training was we had to do like a email reading, a phone reading, like so I had to do those exercises, but any past that, I didn't do readings for anyone. It was all myself. Then after that, next year, I did the class again because it changed. Because and then I swear it's like the class always got tailored to the students that ended up signing up. That's when I started doing readings for other people. But in the beginning, it was just for me. I didn't have that intent, to, do this. But then I realized how rewarding it was in the sense of doing a reading and have someone go, oh my God, that resonated, that so helped, really made me like, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this all the time. Like, this is awesome. And of course, the fear of being wrong, because you always think you're going to be wrong. But cards don't lie. Can't make this shit up. That's what I tell people. I'm like, hey, it might not make sense right now, but maybe in a week or so, if you really think about it. Just saying.
I know. I know. I almost never like predict love for anyone, I'm just,
Mm,
like, right. There's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff I don't really do readings about a lot of times. But in 20, I guess it was in 2020, there were two people that I read for regularly, and both of them I was like, oh my God, like I have to tell you, and I don't talk like this. You're getting some, it's coming in, and they're both like, "How's that going to be? We're in a pandemic. Like, what am I? And one of them, I was like, both of them the same way. They're like, how am I supposed to meet anybody? I'm home all the time. And with one of them, I'm like, you already know this person, and they were mad. They were like, I don't know anybody, and I'm like, maybe
yep.
later. They're totally been living with that person for like a while now. It's really cute. It really makes me happy. And then the other person, I was like, you don't know this person, but they're coming in and they're like, how? Like I'm
Yep.
alone all the time. And then there he was. And they're so cute and happy, both of those couples. But I don't know. I just brought that up because I was like I never do this because I think it's like
Yeah.
manipulative, right? And
It
so
yeah, it's like planting
yeah,
seeds that you don't want to
yeah.
do.
and leading to disappointment maybe, or whatever, and things can always change. And so for me to be like, I don't know, with two different people that I know, and for me to be like, I have to tell you, I'm going to be honest, if this is happening, and they both were
Yeah.
like, I don't believe that, and I'm like, but you're happy now, right? So I love it. Every time I see either one of those couples, I'm like, I knew it.
I saw it coming. You didn't
I
want to
saw
believe
it
me.
coming.
Well, I always say, like, I have 3 rules. Like, I don't do predictions. I don't answer yes, no questions, and I don't give out medical advice. And even though, like, I will get, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't get predictions, because I have, but I don't want to plant seeds. I also, because like that was part of like my journey, just knowing stuff when I was younger. I just
Mhm.
knew stuff, but how do I know what is just my head and what
Yeah,
is real? That's what's hard to delineate. So I just keep a blanket, like I don't do predictions. It's just easier that way. We are, and
yeah.
that's the way I was taught, was we're
Hmm.
not here to save people. We're
Right.
here to help them. We're here to help them work through their stuff. So that's what I really liked about my teacher, was we're not here to make everyone happy and bright. It's just we're here to, and I don't like to call
I
myself a
love that.
healer either.
Right, right. I get you.
It's like I'm here to help you if you're working through something and you don't know what to do or where to go or what steps to take. I'm here to help you find your
Yeah,
way,
right.
or give you reassurance from your guides or whatever you believe in, a message that you need to hear right now. So that's the way I have framed like what I do.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I don't do tons of prediction either, but occasionally I will. Occasionally I'm like, I just gotta say, this is what I see. See what happens.
Hmm.
For the most part, I try to stay away from prediction, but every once in a while, I did get
Well,
that.
when it's so strong, you're like, I gotta say it. I don't care.
For me, I work with a lot of people, a lot of my clients, whether they're tarot clients or my consulting clients, consult like healthcare, mental
Hmm.
well-being consulting clients. I'm not a license in anything, so that's why I have to be careful what I say.
Yeah.
Um, but either one of those kind of clients in my life, a lot of them do have PTSD, and so like a lot of times, a lot of the work that I do with cards is for me, because I'm just like, if
Right.
I can work with other people who have PTSD, um we need so much kindness and support and understanding, and we need help with our perspective a lot. And you can't
Hmm.
really trust people who want things from you, which is, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like our husbands and bosses and sisters and parents and children want things from us.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And they have the rights to those expectations. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, a lot of times, they're not the best people to help us to help us perceive reality from our own perspective. And people with
Hmm.
PTSD need that a lot. Like we need to sit down and have somebody who's just like on our side, who isn't
Hmm.
where there isn't aggressiveness that's involved. Like there can't be aggression with people that have PTSD. And there can't be this well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? Why are you complaining? Like we need to talk, and we need to be like seen and
Validated.
validated and have dignity. It's very hard for us to have a lot of dignity,
Hmm.
because we often can't trust our own perceptions, and because aggressiveness will put us into like a terrible state, a very spinning state of mind. I mean, if somebody gets aggressive with me and I trigger, what starts happening to me is I go into this place where I have no rights. I just don't have any rights. So like that's not going to make any sense to you. Why would I do that? Like why would I decide I don't have any rights? Who
Yeah.
the fuck are you, right? It doesn't need to make sense. I just lost all my rights. And so as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, I just have to do the things that I just have to put up with this. So anyway, that's kind of an
No,
aside.
but and it's also like you're unbiased too in that situation.
Yes. That's what
So
I'm doing.
that's where you can tell them, where validate them, but also then point out where they're skewing the reality of the situation. So you can look at it as a third party, which is so needed. A lot. That's the biggest thing, is that sometimes you just need that unbiased person
Yes.
that gives you, I mean, I know a few times talking to you, like I'm like, holy shit, I never thought of it that way. It's so
Yeah, that's
beneficial.
the whole thing. Somebody who doesn't have a need or an expectation for you and who
Mm-hmm.
also like who also can like I can really sit with other people in the feelings that they're having and not try to like change them, right? But I can
Yeah.
right and just be there. I mean, sometimes I just cry with people. I'm like, let's just cry. We just cry for a while. I cry
Yeah.
with them because I'm sitting in their feelings with them. Hey, Eileen, yay!
Hi,
Um,
Eileen.
so
I think that's part of the reason why, like, you and I have connected so much
I know.
with me being sick, because you've always just listened to me and just validated me and just was like, I can feel that. Like, I'm like, thank you. That's all I just needed was
Oh,
someone to just feel what I'm going through right now. Tell me it's
yeah.
okay.
It's so important. Well, and that would be another group of people that I work with. A lot of times, not a lot of times, but I do have a couple clients that have chronic illness. Many years ago, I did work with a woman who had a terminal illness. She is gone now. Um,
Yeah.
but the reason that they were coming to me isn't like, am I going to be saved by a miracle? Predict things from my tarot cards about from your tarot cards. That's not why they were there. They were
Mm,
there to discuss their grief and their fears involving their own health
yeah.
with someone who isn't trying to fix them, Jill, right? Your family needs you to get fixed. I don't. You can just be sick and I can just be your friend and that's okay. You don't
Right.
pay bills. You're not my mom. Like I don't
Mhm.
need you to like, you just get to be where you are. And that's where, right? And so like, that's
Yeah.
where things are with a lot of my clients a lot of times is like, somebody who's dying doesn't necessarily want to talk about how scared they are to their husband who's about to lose them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get somebody like me in there who's just like, all right, let's just hang out. Let's just talk that through because that's all really valid and nobody's going to fix that. You're going to keep being afraid of dying, probably. Your husband's going to cry like hell when you die. I mean, nobody's going to take those things out, but we can.
Yeah.
So,
And just to let them be human, right? Like, to
yep,
let them be human and be mad and
yep.
angry and have all those emotions and not have to be the strong, because that's the thing, like, especially as women, right? We are pre-programmed strong, and don't show more, like, I especially like people like me and my family, like our hierarchies. I do everything. I am the one to fix, do, go to, like, and that's part of like my generational karma that I've brought into my to this lifetime.
Whew.
And when Danny and I, like a few years ago, before my mother, like right before my mother died, went through a hell of a time, right? Financial crisis, like all this stuff was happening. And it got to this boiling point. And I remember one of his sisters, like, because when we were going through the shit, nobody was helping us. No one was
Hey,
doing
Robin.
it. Hey, Robin. Um, and I remember one of his sisters made a comment about how we were just the strong ones. We're always the strong ones. And I remember saying to him, even the strong break. Even
Yep.
I have my breaking point, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that was, something that nobody could see because we had these roles, these pre-programmed, like this was our lot in life. And that's hard. That's why this stuff is important to have,
It is, and like
a
Robin said,
person.
sometimes rage is a component, and I think you're talking about like illness, and I think that's what she's referring to, and definitely it is.
Yeah.
And how do you express that rage to like people who like want to fix you? It's
And
really
you
hard.
want to
It's difficult.
and you want to be able to release it in a safe place, right? If you want to rage out, you can't do it with your family members. You need a safe place to do that.
Exactly, right. And so like that's going that's what we're going to like readers for. But we can also do some of that work with ourselves. Like I think tarot cards can really, especially if you're like me and you do have to question your own perception. And honestly, if you do have PTSD and you want to have getting better and better, whatever that means, getting a little bit
Mm.
more functional with it, you have to accept that your perception a lot of times is not trustworthy. It's a horrible. I know I've met people who I know they're just like they're never going to do that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're never like, and I understand why. It was really hard for me too. But my point here is that if you go through anything like that, and that can also be if you're in a situation being gaslit by a boss, being gaslit by a partner, a friend, a parent, like you can get into a place where your perception, even if you don't have PTSD, your perception can't be trusted because you're being gaslit, right? So reading cards can help you with that. So sit and like just getting a deck of cards and a book and sitting down and asking questions about yourself. You can ask questions about like what is my argument style? Right? You can ask you're like, like what does this person think I'm saying? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What's another way to look at what I heard? Like there's all these ways, and it's like doing those exercises with the cards. This is definitely like sit down with your coffee or your wine and your notebook, right?
Yep.
And right, and go through these cards and go through these questions. And the real point of doing this at the end of the day is not so that a deck of cards can give you an answer about your life, but it's because you have just used a tool to better understand yourself and your situation. So it can help you organize your perception that has absolutely nothing to do with predicting anything from a deck of tarot cards. But sometimes you have to loosen up your mind so that other perspectives, other possibilities can come in, and opportunities to like change, grow, whatever you need to do to recognize that, something just for you.
Well, that's just it too. Like before I pull a card, I always too, which is always what I would suggest to anybody is like, they talk about meditation and people think meditation's like sitting in cross-legged, and it's not. Meditation is just breath work. It's just a way to clear your mind. And if you allow yourself to clear your mind just for a few minutes, exactly, gives a new viewpoint. And clear your mind and pull a card and ask about you're going to get a clearer answer, especially when you start writing. It's amazing. The stuff that starts to come out when you are open to allow that stuff, because that's the other thing, you got to be open to it, right? If you're blocked and you don't really want to see where you're an asshole, it's not going to come through.
No,
right? It's like you got to be just open to hear it, good, bad, and different. I'm just going to go with it and look at myself and see where because I always hold this belief too, in any fight situation, you always play a part. Even if like you were wronged, you had a part in that somewhere. That's hard to hear. And I'm not talking extreme situations like someone got shot. No, I'm not saying you played a part in that, but a betrayal or something, there was a piece of that where you have to take responsibility of your part. And what is that part? That's the brutalness of the cards, because they're going to go, this is it. This is what you did.
And sometimes, and sometimes too, like, how do I want to put this? Like taking that responsibility, it's like, it's not that you could have even done better in that situation, right? It doesn't necessarily mean like you said this instead of that, and so that's where you took this turn. And it's not that you necessarily shouldn't have said what you said, but you have to see that that's part of how you got where you are in this relationship, is by the choices that you made. So like, right? So it doesn't mean
you might not even have meant anything nefarious by it either. Like you had good intentions when you said it, but
and then you have to, at that point you have to say, well, I did make that word choice, I did use that tone, I did interrupt, I did, whatever it is that you did, I was actually not listening, and or like I don't really have that much empathy for that person, like recognize that stuff, and then you can stop being victimized all the time.
And that's what I mean about like you always play a part. And so like that was something I had to look at with a relationship with a close friend of mine, because I remember complaining to my mentor once again, like this was a couple of years ago, and she said something to me which I tried to remember when I'm having a conflict with someone, is that a lot of times they're mirroring back something within yourself you don't like. So there's a behavior that they're showing that's bothering you, but it's like a reflection of yourself inside. So what is it that they're doing that you've done? And one thing, when she had said that to me, I was like, fuck, it's not what I wanted to hear. But I remember like really taking that question and sitting with it. And it had to do with like friendships of mine in the past where I had abandoned people, so to speak, or just wasn't a good friend, wasn't there. And then when I had this person she was kind of treating me how I had treated some people in my past. And I was like, oh, that's it. I was an asshole. Like, and they
Oh,
own it. Like, so it's like that sort of stuff was interesting too. And I try to remember that, like, okay, so why is this person bothering me? Why is this person getting on my nerves? And it's usually because it's something within myself that I have done, you know. And another
oh,
one
Jill,
was it.
I know exactly. Not too long ago in my life, somebody said like this, just such a demeaning thing to me. This, I'm not even gonna tell you what it was. It was so demeaning, and I was like,
No.
oh, and it hurt so bad, Jill, because I was like, oh my God, 5 years ago, I said those exact words. And my intention was to demean that person. And so I
Yep.
just got it thrown back. I mean, that was my intention. I was like, ooh, I'm taking you down with these 3 little words.
Yep.
And somebody just did it to me recently. And I was like, oh, fuck, I deserve that. I deserve that so hard. And
Yeah. Feeling.
then later, after I was like, okay, I was being like, you deserve it. You're cool. You're fine, Michelle. Thank God that's over, right? And then later, I just kind of laughed at myself because I was like, well, you weren't sure how deep that hit when you did it. Now you know. You got that bitch 5 years ago.
You did. It's like your point was taken,
Yeah,
and you
I'm
knew
like,
exactly how
that's
she
really
felt.
powerful. I must have really won that argument back then because this person sure won this one on me.
Oh, and that it's like, you know, this is stuff that I've taken to even my professional life. How to like respond and not react. Like, you know, you never respond to an email hot, right? You know how
Never
to
respond
respond.
to a what?
Email hot, meaning like you get
Oh,
this
yeah,
email
yeah,
that
yeah.
pisses you off. You don't, even if you do type it, just save it as a draft. Don't send it like, or I can't tell you how many times I've typed something out and I deleted everything, type it out again, and I
Yep.
just shut the email down. I'm like, fuck it,
That's
tomorrow.
my
I'll look at it
hobby.
tomorrow.
How did you know what my hobby is, Jill?
See,
That's my
this is
hobby.
why we
Leaving
hang out, because we like to do the
not
same
sending
things.
text messages, literally my hobby.
Oh my God. Like, I can't even tell you, like, even in YouTube and chats, I can't tell you how many times I have made a comment, then deleted it before I sent it.
Let me
Because
not.
I'm like,
So
it's not my fight.
no, but the only person who knows you said that, Google, and they'll know forever.
They will Google. Let's face it, Siri's, my phone is listening to everything we said. I'm probably gonna get an ad for
Yeah,
something.
fucking
Self-help books.
Yeah, they'll be like, you are fucked up, lady.
You're fucked up in the head. Like you, or I'll get more like tarot oracle like card recommendations from Amazon in my feed, because you know, Big Brother, someone's always listening.
So let me
Robin, it does take years. I am trying to practice it.
Yeah.
To react, to respond, not react. It's hard.
That's what
But
Jill and I
I'm getting
brought that up
better.
a little bit before we went live, and I just started laughing. I'm like, I have PTSD. We don't believe in responding. We only react.
And that's totally valid. But it's
best.
almost like when you react, it's like not the consequences, but you got to deal with and that's just it. People don't realize how much power words have over someone. Because I remember how many, especially as a kid, like the words said to me held such power over me, or took my power away. You know, especially as someone who's young and doesn't, is dependent on these people. Like, I'm not old enough to live on my own. I'm only 10, right? So it's like, words have power.
I thought y'all went on your own at 10.
Seriously, right? It's just, how, that's why I always try to be mindful.
Oh,
I try to be mindful of that too. Like anything I say, anything I type, whether it's an email, text, a comment, it's not there forever. So do I want to make sure that it's whatever I have said, written, typed, whatever, I'm okay with what's out there. So I've definitely been mindful of that. And I'm not perfect. Like, and that's just it. I'm not perfect. Like my anger and I could get triggered. It can get the best of me. I can be just as vindictive and petty as the next person. But I definitely have learned lessons that make me pause more than I would say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Work in progress.
Oh, yeah. Like, But like what you just said about yourself too is to notice that like these are qualities within me. I think sometimes people are saying, you know, when they're petty or vindictive, instead of saying those are qualities in me, they're like, well, what'd you think I was going to do? Like it gets projected on the other person. Like I got petty with you because I had to. I got vindictive with you because of who you are. I deserve that,
Yeah.
you know? Instead of being
Yeah.
like, no, those are my qualities. I'm the one who sometimes wants to do that stuff. And because I'm just human, and maybe it's not great, but it's me, you know? And so that in itself is this awareness that changes kind of everything in your life, honestly. I mean, you may not
It
know
does.
it did because you've known this for a long time, or maybe you didn't. Maybe once you were like, oh wait, those are my qualities. Maybe it did. But anytime we recognize what's coming from us, we start to change our potential, at least.
Yeah, and that's where I can see shifts in my, like, how I handle situations, especially with difficult family members. Just saying, because we had a lot of family members here yesterday.
No,
Just being able to shift that perspective, and also going into
hi Robin.
those situations with intent, like of and I know this sounds like fruity and weird, but I'll be like, I'll ground and center myself and be like, I'm only allowing positive in, positive out. I'm not going to even acknowledge negativity or any of this stuff, because what I think of is this wedding we had to go to, and we were we were on the outs with Danny's sister's family, whatever, but not the extended family, and we were looking forward to this thing. We did have ourselves seated though at a different table, but we were right next to like the sisters, right? But I just remember that night, I'm like, I am here for this person, and I am not going to let anything outside of that ruin this day, this experience. I'm not going to acknowledge it. I'm not going to and it was the most empowering thing because I could feel the daggers at the back of my head, but it didn't even phase me. Like, we ended up, by the end of the night, we're all on the dance floor anyways, but having that perspective and that intent going into that, to not feed that energy really. And a few years before that, because I remember saying hello to one of the sisters 3 times and she ignored me. And that would have usually set me in the rest of the nope. I was just like, whatever, she doesn't want to. I tried to be the bigger person. She doesn't want to. Whatever, move on. And it really made the experience. So we had a magical night. And that was like lesson learned.
Right.
I can go to these types of things and not have to stoop to their level. Then
Right.
afterwards, I could talk about it though to whoever, to be like, yeah, they totally ignored us all night long, and that's okay. But at that moment, I was not going to ruin this girl's day.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And then you wound up getting something out of it too. You had a good time.
That's just it. It's like setting. Oh, bye, Robin. So yeah, those are the things. These are the lessons I've learned, and when I put it to practice, it works out well. And when I don't,
I
I
know.
go, you're like, motherfucker, I didn't do what I said I should, which I know I should have done. Lesson.
I get it. Yeah, you changed. Look at how like you changed the whole reality on that thing. You know, just by like being like, you know what, I'm not gonna feed that. You know, that's one of the best ways to like do life in general. I think I'm not gonna feed this like crap.
But it's hard. It is hard.
I wanted to show the structure of this book, because all the stuff that we're talking about, you can actually work through a lot in this book. So let me show you. This is my book. It's Daydream Tarot, Basic Guide for Visionaries. You can get it on my website. But here's how the book is set up. So you get the card. I know you can't see this.
Can you see it when I hold it up? Look it. Can you see mine?
It's not even the ring light. It's just the light. Oh yeah, you can see it better. Yeah. So you get the card, and then below it is a description. For the major arcana, there's a description of the cards, and then you get thank you, and then you get how to use it in a reading, and a reversal, and then after that we get what is called a meditation. So, and I don't mean like, you know, sit cross-legged or anything like that. But these are these meditations in this book. So where these come from essentially is for 7 years I put up a tarot card on Facebook every day. And so, and what I did,
Interesting.
yeah, I used it as like this public, at the time, I don't think social media was different. But I used it as this way to kind of keep myself practicing every day, right? And
Hmm.
because I would be like, well, I gotta get that card up on Facebook, right? You know, but like I'm a
Hmm.
tourist, that appeals to me. So, right. But I wound up doing it for 7 years and wound up like it was a great way to keep up with like just writing, you know, a little paragraph every day is a pretty good for writers out there. And you're like, well, I'm just not writing right now. Write a little bit every day because it keeps you from getting rusty. So then you don't have to go
Mm.
do that when you get back to writing, which you will.
Yeah.
Um, but so it kept me up with writing and it kept me on my practice, my mental health practice. And so what the meditations are is it's things that occurred to me like at the time that I pulled the card to write the meditation about that card. And so and then there's lines in the bottom of the book too, so you can write in it if you want. If you want to use this book like a journal, you can.
Hmm.
But the idea is read that meditation that I have in the card and then kind of work with your own meditation on the card. And by meditation, I just mean like think it through. And that comes
Hmm.
back to like what we were talking about at the beginning. Like you don't memorize tarot cards, right? So like if we pulled this, what is this, a high priestess here? So if you pull the high priestess, the point here is to get in here and get to know her, not to
Hmm.
remember words about, not to memorize, but to get in here and know her. And so you're going to do that really by doing what I'm calling a meditation, which is really just thinking about the character in the card, where you might see them during the day, what parts of them you find in yourself, good, bad, and otherwise, right? Um,
Yeah.
what parts of them you would maybe want to cultivate. These are all ways that you start getting this relationship with this card. So you never have to remember anything. You don't have to remember keywords. You don't have to remember anything. The high priestess is going to turn over and you'll be like, oh, here's how I know that card. This is how that works for me, which is really going to be the key. Because you can get, you get 15 tarot readers in a room, you get a slightly different interpretation, on
Yeah.
those cards, probably from each one. So
Hi,
anyway,
priestess. I found her.
you found her. I love her. Should we pull a couple cards?
Oh, you know what's so funny? This is where my mind always goes. When I first see this card, is I always see BJ, and I'm like, blowjob.
I
I
know.
swear to God, it's like I swear
Who
my
can?
mind just goes
How can
there.
it
I'm
be
so
helped?
bad. Huh?
You can't be helped. What's funny about that? Oh, hey, Gail, thank you. Gail's here. That's right. You were here earlier. Thank you. I love that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, who could not look and be like, BJ sounds good.
Yes,
Like
it's
I'm
like
BJ.
my mind just goes there. That's just the way I am. That's the way I'm programmed.
Right. Well, who could not be that way, right? We're all 12-year-old boys at the end of the day.
I am such a God. It's like my inner middle schooler.
What's funny about the high priestess in the Waite-Smith deck, Rider Waite-Smith, is that if you go to so that deck is illustrated by Pamela Coleman Smith, who was Jewish, and then there's
Mm.
Waite-Smith, who wrote the book, right? So she did the illustrations and he wrote the book. So she illustrates that high priestess, and he had to say like 2 sentences about what the fuck's going on there, right? Because it's got that BJ on there, or whatever. But he has almost
Yep.
nothing to say about it because it's not from his tradition. So like all he says in his book, like if you go to look up what that means, is he just describes the picture, and the B is Boaz and the J is Joachim, and it comes
Mm.
out of the Jewish, and those are the pillars that enter the tower of the Temple of Solomon. But Waite-Smith has literally nothing to say about the Temple of Solomon or Boaz or Joachim because he's not Jewish. But
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I know it's fascinating to me because the other thing is that for the most part, people have just considered Pamela Coleman Smith to be just an illustrator, but she wasn't. She was a very talented tarotist. And so,
Yeah.
right, which nobody ever cared about. But her card, she was the first person to illustrate the minor arcana, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
she has all of these details in the cards, right, that are from her knowledge, not Waite's
Mm.
knowledge. They're from her knowledge. So I really see the Waite-Smith deck as having this like hidden symbolic feminist language in it, you know, because this was
Makes
done
sense.
right, because she's putting her skills and her knowledge into her artwork in a world that doesn't acknowledge them outright. And so like that's
Yeah.
right. So but that's one of the
So,
interesting,
so
I know, but I always invite students with the high priestess. I'm like, what do you think Pamela Coleman Smith was doing there? Because she was doing something that's not
yeah.
that's no accident.
There is no accidents. It's funny because there's someone that I know. I'm not going to say his name. That you know, he posed a question about the I'm going to say the this. It's a major kind of the I am horrible at saying names. The Hemafra. As soon as I see it's like number 5 in the deck.
Oh, the Hierophant.
Yeah, the Hierophant, and he was like, I've never seen this word in my, because he's, you know, he's very well, like I would say educated, has read lots of stuff. He's like, I've never seen, he's like, there's something, he's like pulled out, like showing the cards, like, what does this mean to anybody? And I remember typing in the comments, well, I was taught if a card really, something about it really bothers you, there's something in that card that reflects back. But like it represents, you know, like religious structures and all this other stuff. And he's like, but I've never seen this word used in any literature or anything. And I was like, well, and it's like, you got to think of when this was created in that time period.
Yeah.
That's a word we wouldn't use today, but it was so funny. It just really was irking him.
It's just,
Like,
he's
what
like,
is this word about?
I mean, and that's like the you know, people are like, I don't know that word. I'm like, I don't know that word either. I only know it from tarot. I have no, I have no idea.
And that's what everyone
like,
was saying. They just knew it from tarot. And that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, I never heard that word like in all of my studies in anything ever. It seems like, you know, they'd be like, well, there used to be the Hierophants, and I'm like, I don't remember anyone saying that. I'll look it up a little bit more. I haven't dug deep into that word, but I only know that wouldn't know it either. Eileen, what tarot deck would you use to start? I bought a Crow Tarot. It's beautiful. Your Crow Tarot is beautiful, but it's very intense and serious. Yeah. So Waite Smith, or I think most of the time people say Rider Waite, but it's
Rider Waite, Waite Rider.
And let me explain that too. Like Rider is the publisher, and Waite Smith wrote the book, and Waite wrote the book, and Pamela Coleman Smith illustrated it. But it would be like, but they call it Rider Waite, which would be like if like Jill, if you wrote a book and Simon Schuster published it and I illustrated it, and they called the book the Simon Schuster Jill book. that's what Rider would. That's how much Rider had to do with that tarot deck. He owned a printing press. That was it. so fascinating. So it really should be the Waite Smith deck. I mean, it's actually like, I find that distinction pretty important, honestly, and we need to keep pushing for it because they need to take his name off of it. He doesn't need to be there. She needs to be there. So anyway, don't get me on my soapbox about that. But this is the best deck, is the one with the traditional cards that you see, the most popular images in tarot. It's a really, really good deck. And I think some like tarot folks, you know, kind of slag on it a little bit just because it is so popular. But I think it's a really great deck. I think there's a lot of information in it, and I think they're easy to read. They're easy to remember. Remember, even though you don't need to remember, it's just that those the images in those decks will just come back to you really, really easily. And so anyway, and there's so many.
They're very clear cut. They're very clear cut, like cut. Meaning, like, you know, I just was looking at the 5 of Cups. Like, it's very clear what this card means. Like, head down, cups all falling all over the place. It's pretty easy to say, okay, so someone's feeling kind of shitty right now, right? When you first look at it, you don't, that's what makes this deck a great one to learn, especially if you're a beginner.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and I really think stick with it. You know, I've definitely, people are different. People, don't want to stick with like one thing, and like that's astrological, in its own way. But if you can stick with the deck, this particular deck, and so you feel like you have a pretty good overall before you try other decks, you will learn faster and better. So I will put that out there.
I second that too. That's how I was taught. Like my first class, we only allowed to use one deck. When I did the bigger master class, the first 6 weeks, we were only allowed to use one deck, and that is it. Wasn't until later on that maybe she'd let us use a second, but Once you
Mm-hmm.
develop the language and the understanding, it translates. But if you don't focus with just that one, you won't develop it as well.
Right.
That's my 2 cents too. I agree with you,
Yeah,
Michelle. You
no,
should
that's
really
like
stick with
I
one.
agree with that 100%. All right, hey, should we both pull a card? Should we ask a question and both pull a card on the same question?
So what do we want to ask?
I don't know.
And that's the other thing too. Like, you'll always see me blowing on my card deck. It's just the way I
Yeah.
do it. And
Uh-huh.
that's just it. You learn your own ways. Like, I usually blow in it to I blow away old energy. And I'm also like, whatever the question, I'm putting my intent in. So if you ever see me doing this, that's what I'm doing. I'm not
Yeah,
just
I
trying to
love that.
kiss my deck.
Oh, I
So
love that.
should we just ask, like, what does the tarot want to tell us today about the stream?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I want to blow on my cards.
Just the way it's like one of those, like, every reader has their tradition, I guess, or their ritual, shall we say.
I think that's true. If and I have less probably than I ever did before. You were talking about, I don't keep them in silk or bags or whatever. I literally just have stacks of cards. Like the stack of cards is on the shelf in front of me. This is how I keep
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's okay though. Like, some people, like, they say you're supposed to put it, but I just, like, I keep them in their boxes.
I'm using my cards constantly. Like, there's no way. I'm either doing readings or I'm flipping cards for myself. I flip cards constantly. Sometimes I get places and I don't have any cards and I don't have any cards to shuffle, and I'm just like, I feel naked. So that's
I
got the Magician. Look at that.
I got Strength.
Ooh, we got Major Arcana cards coming out.
Funny
They're both
enough,
yellow.
what happens to me a lot is after I pull a card, I flip the deck over and I'm like, yep, we're supposed to see this too. The Sun.
The Sun. I got the Emperor. So let's see what we got. We got the Magician, Strength, the Sun, and the Emperor.
Major Arcanas. That's all good shit.
That's all good shit. Okay, so I'll go with what I think is going on here. So with the Magician, you get, if you see in the Magician there, all four of the suits are represented. There's the sword, the cup, the pentacle, and the wand are all there on his table. And he's doing that as above, so below, like Shazam kind of move, right?
Yep.
So he's this guy who, like, he knows all of his tools. Like, I love that about the Magician. And the Magician, if you think about it like this, the Magician is that kind of person who is like, I am not buying a new tool until I am certain none of the tools I already have couldn't do the job. Okay. This guy, you go in his garage, he uses every single tool that's in there. He does not have one piece of crap in his workshop, right? So I love that about him. He always knows how to use his tools, and he is and he doesn't need many of them. And I think that's real super important in our, like, if you ever met somebody who's, they're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take up wood burning. And they go over to like Michael's or whatever, and they buy $500 worth of like wood burning shit and never use that, like, there's some people listening that are probably that person, right? Whereas from a magician's perspective, you'd say, I think I'll take up wood burning. I wonder if I'll like it. I think I'll get a mid-grade burning pen and a small pack of wood and see if I do. You see what I mean? That's the magician. And then you would learn to use all of that before you bought like a lathe and a laser light. And I don't know why wood burning came up. But anyway, that's the Magician. So I would say that this card about the stream is like, we're doing awareness stuff, because that's kind of his, like, that's what he's good at, is being really aware of his environment and his tools. So.
And I was just going to say, we're using the tools that we know. So one thing, so I got Strength. And if you notice, I have the infinity symbol, and so does the Magician.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Above our heads. Above the heads is the infinity. So to me, it just shows flow of energy and the synchronicity. Like, there's no accidents. We were supposed to be here today. We were supposed to pull these cards together, right? It shows how our energy links up. And I love how it's like, so Strength, and it's a woman too. And I think the reason why you got the male card and I got the female card is to show that a female is just as strong, because when I look at this, I see the lion. Who rules a pack? It's a man, right? but it's a woman above him. It's the balance of masculine and femininity I'm feeling with this card, like to show strength. You have to pull from both sides. And also kindness. Like look at like she's like lovingly patting him. And that's what we're trying to do is just show love and compassion. So strength does not mean aggression. And strength is, can you have love and compassion? Because that's more powerful than what you would think it would be forever and always. Like if you look at it in so when I look at the number, hold on, this is where I'm getting old. The number jumped out at me. It's number 8, which is always a good number. It's like you've made a choice. You've made a choice that this is how you're going to show up in life. So everyone that showed up in this stream today needed to just hear it's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to have made mistakes and be assholes. And it's okay to then say, I was wrong. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't take away your power. That actually shows a lot of strength.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And, and to realize also just when it comes to apologies, everybody should look up. There's like 5 steps to an appropriate apology, because really just saying, okay, I'm sorry doesn't really get to it, honestly, because it's just like, you don't have to really be sorry when you say that. Or you might say like, oh, well, I'm sorry I forgot that, instead of saying, well, whatever, I'm sorry I forgot that. I mean, I'm sorry I forgot, instead of like,
sorry, can we just move on?
Can we just move on, or whatever. And in their own mind, they're like, no, I am sorry I forgot. Instead of like, when the actual apology means it needs to be like, I'm sorry I didn't take better care. That's the apology, not I forgot, right? It's like, I'm sorry I didn't take better care. Or you didn't deserve to be talked to like that, or, right. So I should have taken better care. I should have written it down and, made sure I didn't forget. Or if it's if it's words, if it's a words thing, it's like, oh, I really shouldn't have raised my voice. I shouldn't have done that. So just saying, look, I'm sorry about the other day. There's no real reason to take that as an apology, and most people won't. And like, I mean, I definitely don't, unless there's like, I just don't, because like, I'm like, what are you sorry about though? Like, I'm not sure that you're understanding, that you were aggressive, or that you were inconsiderate, or you were insensitive. But you didn't tell me what you're sorry for. You're just like kind of randomly sorry for the other day, or you're sorry that I feel bad.
Sorry I hurt your feelings.
I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. Or I'm sorry.
Sorry you didn't like the way I said this. Like, so in other words, it's like the passive aggressive.
Or I'm sorry you're deciding to take it this way, or I'm sorry you see me this way. None of those things are actual apologies. You might think they are, but they're not. And so like, real apologies are always about our own actions. I did this. And you don't have to intend to do something. You don't intend to forget something, right? But if you forgot something that you really needed, that was important to somebody in your life, like, that's not just you forgot. You were inconsiderate. You did not make it a priority to remember this important thing. So you can't just say, I'm sorry I forgot. You need to say, I'm sorry I didn't prioritize that. And you deserve to be prioritized. And I'm going to do that next time. And make sure I don't forget something like this ever again, which can also be like, I realize, I speak to you too aggressively, and I need to change that. I'm sorry I talked to you like that. You deserve to be talked to better. And in the future, I'm going to choose my words and tone more carefully. That's an apology. Those are apologies. So for those of you out there who are like, you're like, what? I said I was sorry. You said you were sorry, but that's not an apology. So like,
it's the sorry, not sorry apologies that.
Well, I mean, it could be a sorry, not sorry, but it also could be like, you really think you're what? I apologize. That's what you want me to say. I'm sorry. And it's like, no, I want you to I want you to know what you did and take accountability for it and think about it and be generous with me as a person who was harmed by your actions, whether you think I should have been or not.
And that's the whole thing, is the ownership of what happened. And most apologies don't start off with, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's true.
Most, that forgiveness was something and we've talked about this before. I had a hard time with forgiveness because I always thought like forgiveness or saying I'm sorry or whatever meant like saying it's okay, you screwed me over. But that's not it. It's like, you're not going to hold the power over me, because if you're not going to get into like this, people I'll never get an apology from. And that's okay. but I've forgiven them in the sense of
not a deep, a meaningful apology.
It's like, you're not going to hold space. I'm going to release you. And it's really hard to get there from a place of love. I wish you nothing but the best, but this is on you, not me. I wish you nothing but the best in life, nothing but love. Go about your business, but it's on you to now own whatever you did, because it's no longer going to own me anymore. That was really hard. I had someone, my stepfather, I worked a year before I realized I got to a point I needed to be at when I didn't want to run him over anymore. When I saw him in his driveway, the first time I drove by him, I went, don't want to run him over. I don't want to go hug him. I think I'm good with this. I can be just neutral, and I feel good about that. I knew I had come to the end of what I needed to work through to get to that place, because I had done a whole burnt a letter, released the last of a year of work to say, I release you now, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw him a few days later. I'm like, oh, I don't want to run you over. I think I'm okay with this. I'm good. Neutral. I'm good with neutral. I don't have to feel warm and fuzzy when I see you. So
I'm good with neutral. Yeah.
Right?
I think that's a really good point, Jill. And we need to reiterate that. It's okay to just be neutral about someone instead of murdering them.
That's just it. I got to the place of forgiveness where it was neutral and not hate. It didn't have to be a place of love, because did that person deserve my love? No, he did not. So it's he did. It's just saying, okay, you're just not in my life. You're not in my head anymore. And it was very freeing. And I felt this huge weight lift off me that I didn't realize how long I had been carrying. Because I was 43, 44 when this happened, when I did this work. So I had carried that shit around for a long time. Just saying. Long time. Michelle, did I lose you? Michelle?
Oh, hi, we're back. Yay.
Oh my God, I was like, Michelle, good for you, frozen.
I know we got lost. Do you remember what you were saying?
I just said, how it took me a long time to just feel he didn't deserve my love, but to not have, it was such a weight lifted off me that I didn't have to carry anymore.
Yeah.
That's what was important. It was more just, it was so freeing to have that just no longer weigh me down. And I didn't realize how much it did for so many years, because I was in my 40s and he was in my life from the time I was 10 till I was 19. And then my mom and him had gotten divorced, and she died when I was 42. So I thought I had reconciled. Clearly I hadn't. And I didn't realize that till my mom died, because this anger and rage came up towards him that I did not expect. And that's where the work came in. So when I finally released it, it was a huge weight that I had been carrying around that I didn't even know. So I was very free.
A lot of times you don't know what the weight is until until you shift internally. Now that's powerful stuff. I mean, just however you want to look at it, whether it's acceptance, forgiveness, just detachment, all of those things can be the same thing. You can just be like, you know what, I'm going to stop fighting what is. That's honestly all any of that, and just be
strength.
Strength. What was on, let's see, what was on the bottom then of your deck?
Oh, it was the sun.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so someone once told me, this is the most positive. It's the best major arcana you can get. And the way, she was so every time I see this, so when I do readings, I hear song lyrics, or I'll hear, see movie characters. And I always hear Annie, the sun will come out tomorrow. Brighter days.
Cute.
That's the first thing I think of. But it's always the sun, it's brighter days, and the little cherub on the horse. Look how much fun they're having, out from the darkness into the light. Things are going to get better. And I think sometimes I feel for the stream, people need to hear that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because of what we've gone through as a collective for so long. They need to hear that there is hope. I feel a lot of people have lost hope. That's what I feel when I see this card. And this card is just reminding everyone it's going to get better. You just got to have hope. And I think this is the last major arcana card, isn't it? before it gets into the minor, or is it the world?
No, there's 2 more after that one. There's Judgment and the World. The sun is
So
19, right?
So when you think about like the major arcanas, this is like getting towards the end of it. So to me, it's feeling like the end of a cycle as well. Like if we
Ooh,
were to take all the major arcanas and line them up and look at these last few years, this is telling us we're getting close to the end, right?
I got a show on that. Yeah. Ooh, I like
Yeah.
that. It's interesting in tarot too. The moon comes first. Moon is doesn't it? Yeah, moon is 18 and then the sun is 19. So that's interesting too. Like it puts night before day. Night comes
And I
first.
always think of the moon as the illusion card, right? Are you
Mhm.
really seeing things the way that they are? So yeah, when I see this too, like I'm looking at the flowers, like the sunflowers, which I think is really cool. But and I noticed, so this is where the symbolism in the cards is where I pull from. So behind is a wall, right? It's like she broke free from the prison. Broke
Yeah.
free, riding naked on the back of a horse. Woo, look at me living the best life. That's what I'm feeling though, like breaking away from the constraints and being locked in a castle, right? Being like that princess locked in the tower. That's what I'm feeling this card feels like.
Yeah.
Happiness.
Happy. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that card really does have a lot of like happiness in it. Oh yeah, good. I love that. The one that was on the bottom for me was the Emperor. And I mean, I
Hmm.
guess like putting that with everything else that we've got going on here. We have the Magician's Strength, the Sun, and the Emperor. I would honestly say that it's just recognize where you do have authority. Like recognize where you do, like it is up to you. Whether it's like, something at your job and your family, things you say. I mean, like you do have the power over your word choices.
Hmm.
So like look at the places that you have power. You have power over your word choices, you have power over your tone, you have power when you speak and when you don't speak. You have the power over those things. So recognize where you do have authority um over something in your life and use that. That's what
In
I
other words, like, take ownership, right? You can take ownership
Yeah,
and put your energy where you want to. Like
right.
you're your own boss.
Yeah, and I think and you can take ownership a lot of times too of things that like are just a reality in your life or whatever. Even if
Hmm.
other people, they're just a reality. It may not be something you did or chose to have be part of your life, but it just is. So you can take ownership over things that like are kind of shitty. Like you don't have, you
Hmm.
don't have to just take ownership. We can take ownership over the things in our life that like um are crumbing. I'm just saying. But it's so
Yeah,
important.
that's just it. Like everyone has shitty parts of their lives or things that don't make them happy or they're not,
Hmm.
they could do without, but you can take ownership and be like, yep, they are, and they're mine. They're my
They're
shitty
mine,
things to
right.
own.
It's my like it's part of my like dark side and my personality, or it's part of a mental health concern that just, there's not anything I can do about it, but I have ownership over it and like I do the best I can with it, like what chronic pain. It's like I can own the fact that I'm in pain, like I can own it. This is my life, but I can't necessarily change it.
Exactly, but just go with it, and you don't have to make excuses for yourself if you're going through chronic pain. You don't
Right.
have to make, you don't have to justify or make excuses. Like it is what it is.
Hmm.
Just
Right.
like what fatigue and whatever I'm going through, it is what it is, and I'm just gonna own it and ride this wave. Right? You got to just ride, go with the flow.
Right. Right. Well, I love this.
This was so much fun. I'm so glad we did this, but I
Me
definitely think everyone should get this book. I sat on I had this book for 6 months, I think, before it was, I think after I got sick is when I decided to go back to traditional tarot, and I just decided
Good.
to go back to basics. And I remember pulling out this book and looking at it again and was like, this is my book. This is why I bought this book. Because I like to support my friends regardless, but I just remember when I got it and I first looked at it, I'm like, this is a great book. And then putting it in my bookshelf. But then when I decided to go back to learning traditional tarot, I was like,
I've already got it.
I pulled out Michelle's book and I then looked at my mini tarot deck that I showed earlier and said, no, I can't work with this. I need a new one. I can't use the mini deck.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I'm working on I'm going to try to get my next one out for this Christmas season. I'm trying to get it out in the next like few weeks, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll see. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, it's mostly constructing, you know, the book. Like I have most of the writing. It's mostly constructing the book, but y'all, that stuff can take time in a way that like you don't expect. Like it's,
couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have editing to do and I have some other. So I'm trying. I can't promise it, but I would like to. But it's Tarot Quest is the title of the next one, and it has rather than meditations, it has questions that you ask yourself about yourself and about your life that goes with each card. So
I love that.
Yeah, you'll like it a lot, and I think
yes,
I think it'll be a really good companion actually for Daydream Tarot. So I think they'll go together really well. So that you have an example of meditations in Daydream Tarot, and then you have prompts to help you basically to write your own meditations in Tarot Quest if you want that. So that's where we're at.
Well, a lot of times too, like when I pull a card to work with your book, I will say, what does the tarot want to teach me today? What is the lesson I need that the tarot wants me to learn today? That's how I phrase a lot of the questions. So it'd be really great to have prompts for each card.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
I'm trying. If there's a good chance it'll happen. I don't know. I have so many things I'd like to do right now. And I'm like, honestly, Michelle, you should just get this done. And so I'm going to try to make myself do that this week, honestly. So, great. Well, thanks so much, Jill. I know
Thank you for having me on again, and everyone that showed up in the live chat, especially the West Coasters.
Yeah. Thank you, West Coast. They were like, "Oh, okay, I'll get up in the middle of the night to watch you."
I know, right? On my day off.
On my day off. We love that. We love you all. Great, Gail. Yeah, get in touch. I would love that. Yeah, I'm booking if anybody's looking for readings, I'm booking readings. Sometimes I can't get you in for a week or two, but my books are open.
Yeah.
So, what do you do today? Can you say it on TV? But I don't know.
What I'm doing today?
Yeah.
I'm doing nothing.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna go to my son's football game, but I don't think I'm going now. But I think I'm just taking the day to, just re-energize. That's part of my healing thing. Whatever. It's like
you really, the next year of your life, you honestly don't have to do anything else. That's it.
Yeah, it's like I'm so glad I did what I did yesterday for my son though, because he was thrilled with it. He was so happy. And in the morning he wasn't very happy.
It was his birthday.
Yeah. So that was good. Just the energy it took for me. It's like, okay, so today I got to compromise and say, I'm not going to your football game. Love you, but I'm not going. It's like, those are the things I have to be like, okay with. Like, okay, did the party, but guess what? Something's got to give. So what's going to give is a football game.
Mm-hmm.
You can have it.
He's like, yep.
And it's like one of those days.
I've been living my best life.
Jonaside's always living his best life. Come on.
That's true.
We love Jonaside. So what's your plan for today now that you got tarot out of the way for the day?
My plan was yard work, but it's been raining this whole time we've been doing this. So I guess that's I'm not going to be able to get the weed whacker on that. So now I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to work on my tarot book.
You're going to work on your book. There you go. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, I would love to, Jill. So, all right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. And
thank you, everyone. Much love.
We'll be around. You know how things go on this channel. We're here when we're here. All right.
Make sure you have the notifications on.
That's right.